Hi, I'm Dan. I'm the vocalist of Ghost Chant.
Hi, I'm Gus, and I play guitar in Ghost Chant.
My name is Mike, and I play guitar in Ghost Chant.
My name is Brandon, and I play bass in Ghost Chant.
My name is Matt, and I play drums in Ghost Chant.
Mike, Matt, and I were at a previous project for a few years. Getting towards the end of that project, we decided we wanted to do something a little bit different, a little bit harder.
I met Matt and Dan from a previous project, and then Gus knew Dan.
Well, I've known Dan and Brandon for the last 15 years. We kind of came up in the same scene together, but we never really did anything as far as a band together. And when I got the word that Dan, Matt, and Mike's former project was kind of dwindling down and that they wanted to kind of work on something a little bit heavier and more in the vein of music that I was listening to a lot at the time, and I just jumped on it, and we've been trucking along ever since.
And our original bass player was one of my best friends, Luke, and then we eventually needed a new bass player, and we found Brandon.
I had done videography for Ghost Chant for a while, and I've sort of kind of always been around everybody since the beginning of the band. And so when Dan asked me if I'd be interested in playing bass, I jumped at the opportunity. I went out, picked up some gear, and just kind of started hanging out with everybody and doing the thing.
I've always been really just passionate about music and writing in general. So like school and things like that, I was really big into creative writing and stuff like that. And I always saw music as kind of a great correlation to writing in terms of lyrics and poetry and storytelling and things like that. So I've always really wanted to have my hand in that. It also, I mean, at a very young age, who doesn't want to be the cool musician who's doing cool stuff with their friends all the time? So punk rock was a big thing for me, and wanted to be in those kinds of bands was pretty easy.
Both my parents are singers, so I grew up in a house full of music and grew up playing piano, but it wasn't until my neighbor Kenny, I heard him playing guitar in the backyard, and that kind of sparked my inspiration to pick up the guitar. And then a family friend Mike, his band used to play here and there, and going to see them, and that's when I realized I wanted to play in a band with other people, and that kind of sparked it all off.
Music was always like just on in my house. My dad would play a lot of Beatles and like Yes. My brother really liked classic rock. So it was just always around me, so I wanted to play drums from a really young age. Never actually got drums and played guitar. And my first concert was The Who, and ever since I saw The Who play, I pretty much knew I wanted to be involved in music.
When I was 13, my cousin got a guitar, and I started like sitting with him and playing. I was like, this is the coolest thing. So I got my first guitar when I was 13 and kind of just kept on playing, and I've always wanted to perform and always wanted to kind of be out on stage and giving the best show I can.
Growing up in a house where my brother and my dad played drums, so I was third in line. Like second grade, when they told us to pick an instrument, I picked drums and pretty much played drums ever since. I haven't stopped.
Favorite memory as a band so far? Honestly, would probably be our first show. It was pretty sick. We had been jamming for a while. We had recorded some music before we played a show. We had put out a song, and just gearing up for the show itself, the excitement, the kind of butterflies in the stomach again about playing music live, because we had all been doing it for years and years and years, and but there's nothing that beats that kind of first show high. So I would say my first memory, or my favorite memory, would be getting up there and doing it again for the first time as this project, and being able to kind of just share it with the guys.
Probably this last tour, seeing people who were really invested in the music that we were putting out, seeing people singing the words, screaming the words back at us, seeing friends that we had previously met on previous tours, coming back to shows and traveling to see us play in other places, and just making those bonds stronger. That's been probably my favorite memory so far.
Honestly, I just love going on tour. I think just the aspect of being in the band, like in the van with everyone, and like all you're doing is just going to shows, and that's your entire goal is just to make it to the show and play the show and put on a good show. I think my favorite memory is last tour we were in Alabama. Should I do it again? Should I do it again? I have no idea. Was it Alabama? I can do it again. We have the technology. We pulled off at a random rest stop in, I believe, Ohio. And, right? You just said Ohio.
I said Ohio.
Oh, okay. We stopped off at a random rest stop in Alabama. Wrong? Kansas. There's no place like Kansas. My favorite memory so far in Ghost Chant was on our last tour. We stopped off at a random rest stop in Kansas and got to talking to this guy, and he was wearing, or Gus was wearing a Counterpart hoodie, and we started talking about music, and we told him we were in Ghost Chant, and he was recently just listening to our newest song, and like, there wasn't houses for miles, and he like pointed out and said like, I literally live over there. It was like in the middle of nowhere. So it's really cool just to see like our music reach different areas of the United States and the world.
I think it's most shows that we play where people come out and we get a chance to like interact with them, and they tell us like how much each song is like meant to them. And specifically at our first date of the last tour, this dude Clayton came out from 3 hours away and just like talked about like how much like our band meant to him, and like how much it inspired him to kind of get back into playing music. And I think that kind of stuff is really important, really special.
Favorite memory as a band has to be on our last tour. We got to go to Buc-ee's like 3 or 4 different times. And that's probably my favorite time, is just going to Buc-ee's and getting that chopped brisket.
I think the band has always been a serious project. Our previous band was a serious band. We had done a decent amount of touring, and from the get-go, we wanted to do something that was purely and genuinely just us as a whole. And I think we took it really serious about getting to the point where we were writing exactly what we wanted, and seeing the growth that has come from that. Really shed a light on how serious this project really could be. Reaching the places that we've reached, and making connections with the people we have has really shown me that like through music there's this great unifying thing that brings us everybody together, and you got to be serious.
We went into it kind of knowing what not to do and how we wanted to do this process right. We've all been in bands that have gained certain levels of success, and we kind of knew the steps to get there, but we also knew kind of the pitfalls not to fall into, and we tried to do it as best as we could. Our first, not our first single, but the first single off of our first EP, when we released it, it caught on a playlist right away, and I knew from that moment that we were able to write stuff that would not only appeal to us as musicians, but the masses in general.
Honestly, from day one, I don't think we ever had a doubt that we were not taking the band seriously. I think we all had the same mindset and goal, just to make this band work and to try and put out like the best music that we can to sustain and keep going.
From day one, with like the first song that I did a music video for, like hearing the music, I was like, I think they're onto something really big here. And it was definitely the last video I did, Nothing Worth Keeping, where I heard these songs and I was like, no, they did it. Like, they nailed it. So yeah, I think that was kind of the point for me. So as soon as I joined, I knew what I was getting into.
Definitely watching our Spotify numbers grow. and you don't normally when we put out a release, like they'll grow and then they kind of go back down, but eventually they kind of kept growing, and then we hit a middle point where the numbers stayed pretty high. So I was pretty excited to see that people were continuously listening to music. It was really awesome to see, and I haven't really been in a musical project that's been as successful as we've been on Spotify.
I'm Dan from Ghost Chant. This has been Revealing Revival.
I'm Gus from Ghost Chant, and this has been Revealing Revival.
I'm Mike from Ghost Chant, and this is Revealing Revival.
I'm Brandon from Ghost Chant, and this has been Revealing Revival.
I'm Matt from Ghost Chant, and this is Revealing Revival.
Revealing Revival. I'm Mike, and this. Wait, Mike from Ghost Chant? Yes, I'm Mike. I'm Mike.
Kansas. I'm Alabama. This is Kansas and Ohio.
Oh, good stuff.
It's all one take. Everything's here. Yeah.
Kansas.